What was that?
Stop the podcast if you see a booger.
Stop the podcast if I see a booger.
Yeah.
I don't see any boogers.
Cut. Wait. I think we're good.
Dude, I'm one of those people. I'm always checking my nose. Like I do not. Like,
wait, man. You don't want to be that guy.
No. I felt so bad. I was in high school, and it was after our big rival team had a big game. So we went to that, and this girl, she was a cute girl and all, cheerleader, but she was like talking to me and like the guys of the football team, and she just had this big ass booger on her nose. And like I felt so bad, man, because it's like, who's gonna say something? Like she's here, like surrounded by all these older dudes.
Did anybody say anything?
I think somebody did. I always regretted not saying anything.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know. I was more of a turd back then, too, though. I laughed. I wasn't perfect,
all
right? But, I felt bad because I was like, damn, this girl just like all doe-eyed talking to us, and here she is, this massive booger there. I was like, oh, that sucks.
But even as an adult, it's still some people don't know what to do. Do you say something? Is it rude to say something? Rude to not say something? So
yeah.
It goes both ways.
It goes both ways.
Maybe like pull them to the side, be like, hey, by the way, you got a giant booger.
Yeah, like get that out of here now. This is definitely a big issue.
Saying it in front of everybody, maybe be like, hey, let's talk for a second.
Yeah, let's have a private conversation.
Speaking of high school, since I had some cool comments since our episode. The dude I was talking about that drove me out after my wreck, and we stole all the street signs. Best friend growing up. Pushed me across the stage at graduation and stuff. Somehow we hadn't hung out since 2012. And so, like 12 years. And then we got connected after the podcast. And so him and his wife actually came up Saturday. And we played some rock band.
Play some DDR? Play some DDR?
We played some rock band.
I know Sandra said, because I was like,
yeah. No, early on in dating, she straight up asked me if I liked playing Dance Dance Revolution, and I'm like, excuse me, wait, what did you say to me? Do I like to dance? Do I look like I play dance? I just gave her shit. Obviously, I wasn't offended. But that's kind of things you take joy in those things, you know? And, oh man, yeah, she still hasn't lived that down. And, just to embarrass her, another thing was early on I was dating, but the cool thing is about it, she doesn't see the chair, that's a great thing.
That is cool.
But another time I was talking about training, exercising, something, rolling up hills, really bad hills.
Yeah.
They're, my enemy, not stairs level enemy, but tough. And she was like, yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I rode a bicycle up this big hill one time. My legs were just burning.
You're like, oh, were they?
I was like, oh, is that the same thing? And just shaming her.
Yeah, we were talking, because we were talking about your confidence and you're just like your charisma and stuff like that. And we both really appreciate that. And I was like, yeah, he just walks on in, and I was like, shit, I meant, and she was like, she started laughing. And she told me, I said rolls in, but she was like, oh yeah, I did the same thing. She told me about the DDR thing. And I was like, man, it's good to be able to like find the sense of humor in it though.
Oh yeah.
Like why not?
Yeah. We goof on it all the time. Yeah. And so being able to laugh at yourself is huge, whether disability or not. But yeah, hey, we got two. So I'm guest hosting today.
Yeah. So let me do the intro, and we'll roll into it. What is up, everybody? This is Joe Adams, and welcome to the Relentless Pursuit podcast. This podcast brings together individuals from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life to share their stories, their journeys, the ins and outs, the in-betweens, and everything there. And I will say is one of the most authentic podcasts you can find out there. I stay true to that. So if that is for you, check us out, keep listening, subscribe, all those things. If that is not for you, I don't know what your problem is, because you need more of it. So still check it out. But But yeah, that being said, today, for the third time in like a month or so, we have Dr. G in the house.
I'm back.
Welcome. And, it's been a pleasure having him, getting his story and just talking further into things. We could probably just keep going on your story, and we probably will at some point. But every once in a while, we get a lot of people that subscribe to this channel, a lot of guests that come on that don't know anything about me. I find myself briefing individuals before we record on my story, and they're like, holy shit, I didn't know that. And that's why this is all here. So Dr. G brought up the point to, hey, how about I become the host, and with my background and education and whatnot, you are the guest. So I am now the guest in my own place right now, and Dr. G is hosting today's podcast for us. So he's going to interview me. So without further ado, welcome. Thank you. And thanks for being here, bro.
Heck yeah, man. I'm happy to be here and honored. I see we call this episode Get to Know Joe. There we go.
Get to know Joe.
It rhymes. But I know like my tribe of people, you got your following my tribe, like sharing our episode, my episode, and a big part of it is like, this guy's got an awesome story. So I think it is important to tell your story. I know people that's watched it has wanted to hear it. So yeah, let's do it, man. And thank you. I'm honored you chose me.
Yeah, of course.
To get to know Joe. But and it is an authentic podcast. There's no preparing.
No.
Joe don't know what's on this paper, so fastballs, curveballs, everything's coming at him. Anybody that's watched this knows, obviously, you got the podcast, but I think to kick it off, like, what the hell do you do? Job wise, or knowing what I know about you, jobs, but just kind of talk about what you do, who you are, and nowadays.
Man, it's always funny when people ask me that question, like, what do you do? And I'm like, how do I sum it up into one thing? Because I could say I run a brand.
Yeah.
But it's pretty, which is accurate, but it also doesn't emphasize much. It doesn't go into detail. So I run a company called Relentless Pursuit. It's the name Relentless Pursuit Podcast. Started it in 2020. Started off as an apparel brand. And, we'll get into the weeds about it. But just to keep it brief, started off as an apparel brand, built off of a story of something I went through. And built to inspire people to become the best versions of themselves. And, moving through the couple years, built a team, set up at a lot of different events, a lot of bodybuilding events. I just know that world. I got a lot of connections there. So set up a shit ton of events, selling apparel, get the brand out there, posting photos, going to different things and interacting with people and bringing my team along and all that stuff. And it was a lot of fun. But things shift. There's seasons, right?
Yeah.
That was like this really fiery, like, all right, I'm going all in right off the bat, building a team, doing it this way, without paying attention to the details of who I was bringing around me. I just wanted the brand to grow. Yeah. And obviously time has shed light on those people that were there at the beginning, and it is what it is. You learn. But moving forward, I went through some other stuff, ended up moving to Murfreesboro from Lebanon, not too far, and I was like, dude, the name is Relentless Pursuit. Like, it's a pretty heavy name. That requires a lot of action.
Yeah.
To actually represent that. And at the time, my now wife, we had just gotten together, and I was like, I want to take this to another level, but I need to put my back against the wall. And so what I did was a friend of mine wanted to talked about us splitting a building, and that wasn't going to work out for him, but that seed was already planted. I was like, no, I want a space. I told her, I was like, I want a building. I'm going to have to put everything I have into it, financially, time-wise. Just, I'm going to have to max out, but I want to get a building. And so now we have RPHQ here in Murfreesboro. In August, I've been here 2 years.
Awesome.
And it's turned from an empty building to a built-out building to now, we got the podcast studio, which was started right off the bat. Got the apparel side of things, which is, slowed down a little bit, but that's not my main focus at the time. And then now we got 2 massage therapists or healers because they take things to another level. And I got a gym in the back of which I train clients out of, and also have a coach that rents that space and has a team of trainers as well. And then, also newly married with a soon-to-be, this episode drops tomorrow. So, yeah, like in a day, 1-year-old daughter. And I'm a full-time student in the psychology field doing 12 credit hours of class right now. So, yeah, I do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And, that's how you pretty much sum it up.
Awesome. And some of that stuff I didn't know because when I met you, you were exercise science, physiology type student. And I know you do the training, but I didn't know it started with the brand. You know what I mean? Like the merchandising side of it. I would have assumed it started with the training side of it.
Nope. Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah. I had a home gym and I was training people I was trained at I trained at a gym for a long time before, like during school and everything. And then I had a home gym and I was training people out of that and started the brand actually before that. But then, and just obviously the training was Relentless Pursuit, but the apparel brand started as an apparel brand. It wasn't built off of training. Initially, I think that was the idea, but I wanted it to be bigger than just fitness because a lot of people refer to my brand as a fitness brand, and I'm trying to bridge away from that.
Yeah.
Because fitness is a pillar. It's definitely an extremely important aspect,
Part of it.
But there's so much to what Relentless Pursuit stands for. I think just Relentless Pursuit, the idea of it isn't, yes, fitness goals, great. That's a Relentless Pursuit. Mm-hmm. But are you an artist? Do you paint? Be relentless towards that. Do you create music? Is that your relentless pursuit? Or do you want to become a doctor? Is that your relentless pursuit? Do you just want to be the best parent and spouse you can be? That's a relentless pursuit. I think it embodies everything, especially the spiritual aspect of your life. I find that to be very important. So that's a relentless pursuit in itself. So it's a very broad thing. And I had a guy ask me one time that was interning briefly, and he was like, "So what's your target audience?" And I was like, everyone.
Yeah.
He's like, "Well, in school, they told me you need a target audience." And I was like, "Dude, we got people that rep this brand that are 13. We got people that rep it that are in their 60s. It's like, it's for everybody." And I know in school they told you to find a target audience, but I don't do the things the way like school has taught me. So.
And the real world doesn't. And, I work in education, which sounds weird, but it's kind of ironic sometimes how narrow-minded, like focused things are in the class, and you get out in the real world, and target audience is everyone. But yeah, I like that, man. Fitness is a part of it. Inspirational, it sounds like, and day to day, just setting goals and being a better you type thing.
Being the best version of yourself, only greatness.
So, now I look at you, anybody looks at you probably thinking like, fitness guy, muscle guy, like pure jock exercise dude, but in his exercise science, that's kind of how I saw you. But really you're more business minded, as much so at least you're a businessman type
100%.
thing.
Yeah.
That's cool, man. Hey, and I do want to say, heck, it took 2 episodes to tell my story, so we might not hit everything today, man, because I want to hear your stuff out. I got some topics. It's your freaking podcast, so I'm not going to cut you off or rush you. And I definitely want to talk more about the podcast.
Yeah.
So I got some questions to throw there, but I do want to give you a chance to you've been through a lot in your life, and you've talked about a lot of that on this podcast, but going back to growing up, childhood, youth, like, pre-college, pre-military, pre-accident, Joe, what was, kind of tell us about yourself growing up in your childhood.
Yeah. So, I was born in Tampa Bay, Florida, and,
Floridian.
So Floridian, man. I think that's why the key lime pie is so important. Yeah. It's in my blood. And, little sister, about 16 months younger than I am. She was born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, And then I don't remember any Florida time. And then we moved to Georgia, spent a lot of my life in Georgia, raised by Mark and Jan Adams, the best parents in the world. They're still together, and they've been a massive influence in my life, and they're a couple of my best friends. To be honest, I don't know what I'd do without them. I'm extremely fortunate to have such a good relationship and such great parents. I mean, things on a daily basis shed light on that, how blessed I am, and something I don't take for granted. But raised by them in a good household. You know, my dad always worked hard. He traveled a lot, but he always made it to things and just put in the extra effort to be a part of my life. You know, my mom, you know, just took care of my sister and I the best she could. She grew up in some pretty rough circumstances, extremely rough circumstances. If people really, if one day she'll tell the story, but you know, and her thing was she wanted to like have a family that she never had and like be the best mother she could, and she definitely has delivered on that on all levels, you know. And they've been just a very loving, awesome home. You know, moved around in Georgia a bit. My dad's always been in the trucking industry, so different companies. He's been on the more like executive side of things. Moved around in Georgia, got a lot of family there. Got, you know, playing sports and stuff, tried everything. Football was my fit long term. And then we moved to Texas for like a couple of years, and then back to Georgia. Lived in Georgia for a while, up until like my freshman year in high school. And, you know, my childhood, like up until then, I mean, it was just a lot of moving around, playing sports, being new, different places, and just
easy.
It wasn't, but also it's like, but everything was pretty typical. I didn't have friends that, you know, I don't have friends that I knew since first grade, but that's okay. Like I've met my greatest friends in the past several years. Yeah. And like people I would die for, you know? And so, and people change and drift apart. Like that's, you know, it's just part of it. But, yeah, in freshman year, right after my freshman year in high school in Georgia, I was at a really big school. We were in Flower Branch, Georgia. We moved to North Carolina and spent some time there. Yeah, I spent the rest of high school there in a very small town, like half the size of Smithville, Tennessee, if anybody knows where Smithville's at. Like, Lydia's from there, and it's small. Yeah. And she was like, I took her through my old town like a month or so ago because we were on a trip out in North Carolina for this work thing. And she was like, I didn't know towns like this existed. I was like, yeah, I told you I was from a small place. And she was like, it's like smaller than Smithville. I was like, yeah, I told you. But
and North Carolina sounds like you're talking about Mayberry.
was about 20 minutes from Mayberry.
Really?
Yeah. So you know when they said Mountain Pilot? Yeah. I'm from Pilot Mountain, North Carolina. So shout out to Pilot Mountain. Yeah. Literally the mountain was right next to my exit.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, so Mayberry is where I grew up.
It's a real town.
Yeah, it's a real town.
So Mount Pilot stands for Pilot Mountain?
Yeah, Pilot Mountain. And Mayberry is known as Mount Airy.
Didn't do that.
That was our biggest rival in football and stuff, too. Yeah. So, and all sports, really.
So, from the mountains then, how many years were you there in North Carolina of your childhood?
You know, moved up there at the end of my freshman year in high school. And, it was crazy because, you know, it's just such a different shift because I moved from a bigger area with a huge school right by, like, the Atlanta Falcons training camp. So we got a lot of equipment donated by them. Like, it was a setup. And, you know, like, our locker room was, you know, in college or NFL status almost, right? Because we got a bunch of cool gear from the Falcons and because we were the Flowery Branch Falcons. And then I moved to, a small school with, I graduated with 100 people, 150 people. Wow. And, you know, like a little tiny locker that we had to shove all our football stuff in. And I was like, dude, this is a shift. And there was nothing wrong with that. I mean, I didn't mind that at all. But it was just a totally different world than what I was used to. But I grew up in that, you know, and, you know, going to a friend's house for a party, you got to drive like 40 minutes because they're out in the middle of nowhere, you know. And high school was a good time. I mean, you know, I got along with everybody. I lived right outside of town. So after football games, like, that's where all the parties were, was in my parents' basement. And where their room was in the house, they weren't able to hear us in the basement because it was like a half basement. So it was separated. And they were like down this hallway in the back corner. Yeah. So we'd be raising hell. Had people coming in and out all hours of the night. I mean.
So you were the party house.
Yeah, it was a party house for sure.
Were gone.
Yeah. But it was a good time, you know.
Yeah.
And I was there. You asked how long I was there. I was there from end of my freshman year. Graduated there, and then went to college at Gardner-Webb University, which is outside of Charlotte. And that's where that's where like the journey really began there as far as myself. But
that's cool, man. You were the party house. Do you watch? And your parents were there. They were upstairs. You had like the basement, right?
Yeah, and like they didn't really know what was going on.
Oh yeah.
But like they also were like, my mom would be like, no drinking, but then she'd make sure I had everybody put their keys in the basket. Because just in case some funny business was happening. But yeah, we partied, and I'm sure they stressed the hell out. And I don't, honestly, thinking about it, I don't blame them.
Yeah,
I kind of feel bad, but everybody was safe, and we always had a good time. And I was just honestly just a typical high school jock. I just, but I grew up, kind of chunky and like picked on a lot everywhere I moved, you know, so, and then I sprouted up when in that move and like.
Yeah, I want to say,
Hourglass.
Sounds like, definitely awesome parents. And then, it's good. They're trying to tell you guys the right thing to do, and parenting, but then being realistic and stuff. Like the keys thing, gotta give your mom kudos. That was smart.
Yeah,
and
she tried.
I mean, hey, go back and watch. If you don't know who that guy is, watch episode 86.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's cool that they did that. Like, hey, here's what you should do or shouldn't do, but kids are
wild, and we still got out and about. We took our chances. I mean, I think. That's what kids do, especially in a small town like that, man. You can get away with a lot more, and and you think you can get away with a lot more. You run into circumstances, but I mean, it is what it is. But I'm here and I'm grateful. Obviously, I've avoided a lot of terrible consequences, but it just is what it is. So yeah.
I'm picturing that '70s show. You ever watch it yet? They're down in the basement.
I have.
Oh, yeah. And the parents are upstairs, so that's cool.
Something like that. Yeah, it was a good time. I had a lot of fun, and I don't really talk to anybody from those days now. I got one really good friend from high school. His name's Kyle Pruitt, and I went to Asia and stuff with him, and I was in his wedding out in California recently. And that's about it. And then my buddy Bobby, we talked some. We joined the military together, but. Yeah, so just a job, but like I said, I sprouted up, and I was this big dude. I was strong. I was a great athlete, and I was just good to people, man. Like I knew what it was like to move around and people be dicks. So I was good to everybody around me, and I always tried to just be kind, and I just played ball and focused on honestly football and girls.
Yeah,
all the way through high school, and that was that.
Football and girls. Which one was top priority, you think?
I think to be honest, I prioritize girlfriends a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because my football coach said something to me one time about it.
Really?
He's like, if you weren't so focused on girlfriends.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, sorry.
One of those things. I used to hear stuff like that. But I mean, when you're young, it's the having fun thing,
That's part of what you do, yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I think you're just learning and growing, so.
And to be honest, looking back now, like what's more important, like in your day to day now, football or women.
Yeah.
Woman.
Yeah. Well, now I got my woman and my daughter, so those two women. Yeah. But I will say too, I was actually my senior year, I was on the competition cheer team at my high school.
Oh, okay.
After the football season, I did that, and I got talked into it. And some other guys on the football team did it as well. And yeah, dude, I got really good, and we went to nationals down in Florida. Cool. And I had all kinds of people trying to recruit me. Like, it was wild. And I ended up working for being a universal UCA instructor. So I was a cheerleading instructor at cheer camps for UCA. And that was pretty wild, man. So here I am, like 18, first job out of high school.
Yeah.
I'm getting sent off to camps, getting paid, and hanging out with like college cheerleaders and partying and just, throwing people in the air. And it was like this really cool job.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty interesting aspect. A lot of people are like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was that.
Yeah. I didn't know that. And so Yeah, we didn't have that at my high school, kind of smaller, but
Yeah.
athletically, like it sounds like football is your favorite sport, but like, I don't know, career talent wise, sounds like you were awesome at cheerleading, man. Like if colleges were looking at you, you're a buff dude, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's hell if you can throw people like stunt well and throw the girls around and do all those things and have some coordination, like there's a lot of opportunity there. You can get a lot of people can get scholarships and stuff. I ruined that opportunity. Once we get into the college story, like with my addiction stuff, I kind of ruined that moving forward. But
are you also catching them or just throwing them?
so they're running up, you're throwing them up and doing stunts and holding them up with one hand and catching them. Yeah, you're doing all that stuff. And then I could do all the tumbling too, so I could do flips and whatnot.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, that's funny. I don't think people would think like, hey, Joe Adams, cheerleader.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you really enjoyed it and was really good at it. Got a lot out of it.
Yeah, and I think it forced me to just do something uncomfortable. And it forced me to like take a chance on something new that I never thought I would do. And it's so applicable to life now. Like there's so many things, just forcing yourself into uncomfortable situations in order to grow.
Did anybody give you shit? Like, Joe's cheerleading.
We did a routine one time at a basketball game. And, of course, like everybody I played football with was over there, and they were just laughing. And I'd laugh, too, because I saw, I was in the uniform. I'm sure, like, I would have been cracking up at me, too, And it was funny because they're just, like, used to me on the football field, and then they see me over there. But nobody really ever gave me shit, man. I mean, hell, it was cool. I mean, yeah.
It's going to have its perks, right? I'd kick myself. Well, I can't kick myself down, but I'd hit myself.
You try.
If I didn't ask, I had to be good for finding the ladies and girlfriends. Advantages there.
Yeah, I mean, of course. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess that's definitely a plus. And that builds your, I think, confidence in a way too. Because 18, and then you get a job surrounded by chicks that are in their 20s that are like SEC college cheerleaders, and you're hanging out with them all the time, and you've got to like up your personality a little bit and open up a little bit more. And so you build that confidence and meet females that way too. So but
I think that would probably be my motivation for going into it, to be honest, especially back then, so you had the opportunity, you had people trying to recruit you to cheer. And probably, I don't know if you want to play college football or if it was more the cheer part, but kind of talk about the high school to college transition years or where you went.
So I had my dad and my grandfather went to a school called the Citadel Military College, South Carolina. It's in Charleston. And so I was like a legacy there. And I had these opportunities to go like cheer like Clemson and stuff like that, like USC, like some big schools. Because I knew the coaches, I worked with them, and they're like, you got a spot, but I'd already committed to the Citadel because it was like, I got to do, I got to follow their path. And I got there, and, you're getting yelled at and stuff and all that. And like that wasn't really the issue, but I was there for, a couple weeks, and I was just like, dude, this sucks, man. Like, I don't want to spend college, dudes yelling in my face. I don't even know. Like, I'm taking classes. I was like signed up. I took like Mandarin Chinese. I was going to take that, like, because I was like, ooh, it's smart, and I was going to do all these things. And I got there, and I was like, I was going to walk on, play football. And then I realized, like, immediately, I was like, dude, this is not my path. Like, this is not what I want to do. I'm doing it for somebody else.
Yeah.
And so I left, and there was some disappointment there. I could tell my father was pretty disappointed by it. He was excited about me. Like,
was he pumped when you went there?
Yeah. It's like, oh yeah, my son's coming here too, and it's important to him. And, but then, so I went to Gardner Webb, and I was going to continue school, and just figure it out. And, man, I think I just really, and it's not his fault. It's no one's fault, but I don't like disappointing people I care about.
Yeah.
And
it sucks. It don't feel good.
No, it doesn't feel good, especially my parents when they've allowed so much opportunity. They've been so good to me my whole life. And I'm like, fuck, man, I hate disappointing them. So And he never said, I'm disappointed in you. That's the thing. This is
Yeah.
just all assumption. And so I went to Gardner Webb. And it started off well. And then, man, started smoking some weed with some guys. End up like hanging out with them and then going to this dealer's house to get weed. Well, then I got introduced to pills. And then, boom. The next year, my life was straight up 8 or 9 Xanaxes a day, scrounging for change just to find pills and doing whatever I could, doing some sketchy stuff.
Yeah.
Like, just to do pills, man. And I got hooked. And because that was like, it was nice because I could escape from that pressure of disappointment and what I needed to become in my life. Because I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life.
And career-wise.
I was like, why don't I just tank it? And like with these pills, at least I can not think about it and disconnect. And so that's what I did, man. And I got really, really honed in on that. And so I spent my days like skipping class and hanging out with the dealers. And, life started going away, like, tanking fast. I gained a bunch of weight. I was extremely out of shape. I ate like shit. And I just wasn't taking care of myself, and I just kind of spiraled into like a dark place.
So you gained weight on the drugs instead of like, we'll picture the thin junkie a bunch, but you put on weight.
Well, yeah, because I was smoking weed too.
Yeah.
So I still had the munchies, right?
Yeah.
And I was like doing what I could, for like the guy I got my stuff from. I'm like, hey, can anything I can do to get like some free stuff, So I was being shady as hell, and just taking
with the drug dealer.
Yeah, yeah.
Working, were you the muscle?
No, I definitely wasn't muscle then. I was not threatening at the time. But it was funny, man, because you just see me like I'm like this kid in like some khaki shorts and a polo and some slides on, and like, but I'd be in like the hood, and we'd be standing outside my car, blasting some Jeezy, and like drinking 40s and smoking a blunt, and like I'm smoking a Newport after that, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, I just didn't fit in, but like, they looked out for me, but at the same time, like, I don't know if they were actually looking out for me because, I mean, my life was in shambles. Are you really looking out for somebody if you're enabling them? So,
no, and I mean, yeah, we got really similar experiences when you are doing that's your leisure number one hobby is drugs. Anything you can do to make that easier, cheaper. You do some shady stuff. So, and people might seem like they're in your corner, but really they're not. I mean, so did you ever get in trouble? Like, did you get busted or anything with the law?
I don't know how, but no. I somehow avoided so much crap. And I think back and I'm like, dude, because I was kind of reckless with it too.
Yeah.
Like, I did not think things through, but somehow I avoided it. I'm blessed to have avoided it. But, hell, eventually, like, that luck runs out, and that time, whether it happens within a year of you finding that lifestyle, 10 years or 20, you're going to meet that point that's like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Like, what did I do?
Mm-hmm. A lot of people, I know from my experience, people that don't get out, it's like dead or jail or maybe bad, health problems and stuff. So, after I got clean, I just sat around waiting, like, are the cops, please hope the cops don't show up.
Yeah.
Or I hope I don't, like, your liver's horrible, like sitting around making sure there's no consequences. But yeah, so doing some shady stuff and do you think a lot of it was from that, just the guilt or the shame, maybe even more of the Citadel thing, like kind of letting down your family and assuming you.
Yeah, I think that just like I had this unnecessary pressure of having to figure out what I want to do in my life.
Yeah.
On top of like that shame, it's just, like I said, it was my escape. Right. And I've always been kind of like drawn towards like more of a rebellious lifestyle anyways. I mean, even today and in some aspects. Right. And so I think there's also that appeal, like, I'm doing what I shouldn't. Okay, that's cool. Yeah. It's because I don't like following like the status quo or like, I don't like being politically correct or just falling in line with anything. And I've never been that way. So I think that's a big aspect to it for sure.
Are you one of those like, hey, you need to do this, and so like I'm gonna do the opposite,
100%. Yes, I do not like being told what to do. It's best you just tell me like the opposite of what you want me to do.
Yeah. And you'll go do it.
Yeah. And, no, I mean, it depends on the situation, right? But I got to find things out my own way.
Yeah.
You know, I had like been pursuing this one, to be a part of this group at one point. A friend had said, you know, he had left that group and he's like, you know, this is my experience, you know, but you're your own man. And I could have listened to him and been like, yeah, you know, I'm not going to pursue that. But I got right up to the point. I was like, I'm going to keep moving forward. I got to find out for myself.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things like I had to see for myself in order to make my own valid opinion and not have to ask myself questions down the road. Right. Mm-hmm. So I kind of pushed to the point where like that opportunity came and I was like, this just, my heart's not here.
Yeah.
I had to see it for me though. So I think it's just learning from experience has always been something that I've appreciated rather than learning from other people's experiences, if that makes sense.
Do you think like going through those hard times and down the bad road was kind of like, I don't want to say necessary, but you gained from it looking back?
I look at everything as good or necessary.
Yeah.
So
I don't see it as a regrets.
No.
You know, you got to have a no regrets tattoo on there somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Well, I got a more fati, which is the love of one's fate.
Yeah.
It's a Latin phrase that means to look at every situation in life is either good or necessary.
Yeah.
Because it's all fated. It's all a part of where you're supposed to go anyways. And just learning how to accept that, it's honestly pretty liberating. Because if I look at any situation as bad, it's going to fester in some way and it's going to bring about some kind of negative product, right? So I find it very important just to look at no matter what I've been through in my life is at least necessary to who I am today. And I'm grateful for it. I'm glad I went through that dark time. And guess what? Now it's just given me wisdom. Yeah. It's given me experience and I survived it. And now, you know, when my daughter's growing older and, you know, I can share with her that and share my experiences with her. So
I think I definitely want to hit like some, you know, personal spirituality stuff, you know, at some point in your story. But I think it's cool. One thing that's helpful sharing your story is your outlook, you know? Mm-hmm. Because I feel like a lot of people do have regrets, but the way you look at it is things as growing from or necessary, instead of looking back like, oh, I wish that wouldn't have happened and dwelling on it.
Well, because you can't change it.
Yeah.
You know, all you can do, everything comes down to choice.
Yeah.
So if I make a bad decision one day, I can be like, shit, that was a bad decision or a negative decision. I don't like what came from that, but guess what? Learn from it and then be better tomorrow than you were that day. Or, you know, so I just always am looking at life of like, man, I can be better tomorrow than I was.
Yeah. You
know, so any piece of me that I don't necessarily appreciate from my past, I'm not that person anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's like when someone says, I was talking about on a podcast and there's that saying, once someone's a cheater, they're always a cheater, right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, I don't necessarily believe in that either because guess what? Like, you can make a decision to not be that person anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and you can be better than that person. So that's just how I look at everything.
Yeah, no, that's interesting because, yeah, you know, if you do a behavior, maybe, you know, you're more likely than others to do it in the future. But like, you know, you heard my story. People turn it. You can always choose to do a different behavior and change because, God, I was pretty horrible, you know, 18, 20 years ago. And so, yeah, I think that's awesome. It sounds like you're in the moment. You think about the past to learn from it. Mm-hmm. And what you just said, it's funny, lines up exactly with what you said about the relentless pursuit. It's not for one audience. It's not just for fitness. It's for everything. Know, everybody and being a better you each day.
Without a doubt.
So that's cool that like your legit experiences and what you do in life actually lines up exactly with what you're doing in business and podcasting and what you're, you know, striving for.
Part of why I love it so much.
I don't know. I just feel like some people aren't like practicing what they preach, you know what I mean? So it's cool. Authentic guy, man.
There's a lot of people talk to talk.
Yeah, that's the easy part.
But guess what? There's people that can't speak.
Yeah.
That walk. You know what I'm saying? It's all about, well, shit.
Or roll.
No
I was
offense.
gonna say, or roll, Joe.
I said walk so firm, and I was like, shit.
Rolling, I gotta go back to you're politically correct. Rolling's as important as walking, Joe.
Talk to talk or roll to roll. You know what I'm saying?
These are the moments I live
funny.
for.
Yeah, I just think about shit, dude.
Yeah, I will say, every day, like, if you talk to my boss or Sandra or anybody, like, I always say, like, hey, I'm going to take a walk, like, 'cause I use my lunch break to go exercise every day, at the rec center. But, no, I do that all the time. Like, oh, yeah, as soon as I walked in the room, he said so-and-so. So I don't even say roll or anything, but the look on people's faces when they accidentally say that.
Funny. It's funny, but like I said earlier, you can joke about it and find humor in that. So, important to emphasize, at the end of the day, whether you're rolling, you're walking, or gliding,
Or caning.
Yeah. As long as you're moving forward and you're actually like taking those steps or moving those feet or whatever it is. I don't know how you do the measurements, but moving forward, and minus the talk, because I always bring it back to, I think to me, a big thing of that is like spiritual aspects, right? Like, people and beliefs, and they're like, well, I believe in this. I believe in this thing, no matter what it is. Maybe not even religion or spirituality, but I believe in something. And, but they talk about it so loud, like you should follow their advice, yet there's no actions behind their words. And, there's a saying, it's strong limbs, pure hearts, and actions matching words. And I'll always think about that. Actions matching words is like very important. So, I think you need to match it up.
Well, it's easier to say it. And going back to the episodes when I was here, we talked about focusing on the things you can control, and that's the actions, and what you say, but also what you're doing, and not just going around. Because if you're just saying something and you're not doing it, and walking the walk or rolling the roll, caning the cane, you're not moving forward. So that's awesome, man. I just I was wondering about that because I didn't see you as a regrets kind of guy,
Nope.
So that's interesting. So got into the drugs.
Yeah.
Sounds like pills was your go-to.
For sure.
Benzo guy, is that the?
Yeah, Xanax and there's Klonopins. Those are like my two favorites.
Oh yeah, I know of them.
Yeah.
You like the amnesia stuff, man. You were numbing up.
Yeah, it's like honestly, that time was just like zombie mode. Yeah. Always. It was really weird.
Were you drinking on top of it?
Yeah. Not drinking as much, but still. Yeah. When I did drink, you'd black out, man. I'm surprised I didn't go to jail at some point.
Yeah, and you mentioned on my episode, how much life's improved getting off the drugs and alcohol, and obviously, for me as well. But, and for you were talking about forgetting things, like not remembering stuff that you've done. And that goes to good or bad. Yeah. Because, the, Xanax and stuff, I saw Stone Temple Pilots open for Aerosmith, and I don't remember any of it.
That sucks.
So mad because it was alcohol and benzos, and it's the amnesia pills.
Yeah. It takes away from experience. It literally sucks experience out of your life.
Yeah. Hey, there you go, kids. Don't do drugs because Scott Weiland's dead, man. So I'll never see Stone Temple Pilots.
Damn.
And I blew my one chance.
You could claim you saw them, but you didn't.
Yeah. Okay, so I will say I have one memory, and it's like a split second little picture of Steve Tyler walking down the aisle past me. During Dream On or something. He came out into the crowd and walked right by me. Well, I can't see enough of it to be happy about it.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
Like, damn it.
Yeah.
So living hard, kind of numbing yourself. Was it did you, because I know you went into the military and stuff. So I know you're a veteran, which is awesome, and thank you, by the way.
Thank you.
Was that like, were you in the drug game, out in the hood, slinging and popping pills and drinking your 40s? Was that like 5 years or
No, it was a year.
Okay.
It's just maybe a little more. I went to school and it just spiraled fast.
Yeah.
And then, it's funny, I'll never forget, I had a group of friends. They were all like pretty, like they did drink and stuff, but they were good people. And they spent time with me and I was like, guys, I'm not doing pills anymore. And they're like, yeah, so proud of you. And then like the next time I like got together with them, I was pilled out and I was like, fuck. So, and that's the thing too, when you're addicted, like you do a lot of talk. Like you're like, yeah, I'm good. I'm going clean. And then you just revert right back. And
that's,
and then, but then I just, I've mentioned this story so many times. And I think, so back to the cheerleading, I had an opportunity to go back. They were like, hey, come back. And so there was a meetup at this hotel, and then there was like some tryouts, which I already had a leg up because I was there this summer before.
You knew people.
Yeah, and that's just, if you were like a past coach, then they wanted to bring you back, and it was just going to be easier. But something like that. But there was a meetup at the hotel to, do that next summer. And, man, I went to that, and, dude, here I am, like, gained a bunch of weight. I'm a pill addict. I look like shit. I feel like shit. Just
Jumped
in
out.
and out. Just like I'm not me. And I showed up, and I'm just interacting with people, and I'm just looking at all them, and I'm like, man, they're all like in shape. Like they're thriving in life. They're like, how are you doing? I'm like, oh, just in school, just figuring it out, just I felt like I didn't belong. I felt like a fucking loser.
Yeah.
And so we were in one hotel room just all kind of catching up, and we had to go down to this meeting that night at a certain time. And everybody's like, all right, I'll see you down there. I went to my room, and nobody was around. And I was like, dude, you do not belong here. What the fuck are you doing? And, bro, I straight up just, like, snuck out of the hotel, of the back door.
Real, just left.
And just got in my car, popped the Xanax, lit up a joint, and hit the road.
Yeah.
And people were trying to reach me.
Yeah.
I didn't pick up the calls. I got emails. Nobody could find out where I was. And, and I've always felt some kind of, like, guilt for, like, not telling people what happened. But I was so ashamed of who I was at the time that I couldn't face that, and I couldn't voice it. I didn't want to tell anybody. I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to fucking ghost everybody there because they're going to care, and they're going to talk to me, and I don't want to hear it. I just fucking need to get away. And so I just completely disappeared.
Gonna try to save you, maybe. Like,
and I was just like, dude, I'm a fucking loser here. And so that was a really harsh reality check. I'll never forget that, man. I just grabbed my bag and I was sat in my car and I just popped one and I was just like, lit up a joint, and I was like, fuck. And I rolled out. And that was that. That was the end of my cheerleading career.
Was it just meetings that day, or did y'all physically do stuff? And after a year, you'd lost a lot of it.
It was just a meeting. It was because it was the evening time, so that the physical stuff was the next day.
Yeah.
But I was like, dude, I'm the worst version of myself right now. I don't belong in this. Everybody's got this charisma and this energy, cheer stuff, right? So, and here I am, just like dead, literally a zombie, and But right after that, that's when the reality check came in, man. I think that was a huge
turning point.
And I was just so ashamed of who I was. And then, one night I'd done a bunch of pills and I blanked out. And the next morning I woke up and I went in the dorm bathrooms, and had my shirt off. I was just looking at myself in the mirror, and I was just like sloppy, unathletic, just like a totally different person than I ever was before, all by my own hand, And I remember looking at myself in the mirror and staring at myself, and I was just like, I fucking hate you. And I'll never forget, man, this is if I walked away and that person stayed there. And I walked out of the bathroom, and I immediately called my friend, and I was like, hey, dude, I'm going to go to recruiter.
Oh, damn, really? Like, it was that fast?
And he was like, I'm going to join you.
Really?
Yeah, because he was in the same path. We'd hang out on the weekends because I wasn't far from my hometown. And, and I'll always tell people, that hatred was good.
Yeah.
Because that self-hate I felt for myself was the biggest form of self-love I could have ever shown myself. Because I love myself enough to walk away from that person. And that's the important thing there. Hating the things, I think self-hatred is good in the aspect that you're able to recognize the things about yourself that need to change and can change, and making the choice to love yourself enough to move forward from that and be better than that person. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I get what you're saying, too, because I feel like some people, you say that, they might, that's not right to hate yourself, Joe, but you really were hating yourself due to loving yourself so much, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was a huge turning point. And, I went to a recruiter and outside of Charlotte, and we visited with him a few times. And long story short, I was headed to boot camp in November 2009.
Wow. Hey, when you went to the lake, you decided right away, you called your buddy, and that's cool. I'm sure it probably was relieving or motivating when he was like, "Hey, I'm cool with that. Like, let's do it."
Yeah, because it was like, all right, now my boy's doing it with me, and
it's
so
like a team thing. Did he go the same branch and stuff?
Same branch. Yeah, we both went Air Force. So because we talked, we didn't really know which route we wanted to go. You got some very different branches, and but we talked. He knew that SRO officer at our high school. SR officer was really cool, and he was he was a Marine, always a Marine. I got shit about that the other night. I said ex-Marine. They're like, ex-Marine. I was like, okay, Marine. But it was funny. But he was a Marine, talked to the RTC instructor. He was Army Ranger and stuff like that. And and like they were all like, go Air Force if you can. So that's what we did, and went to Air Force recruiter.
I think my dad always told me like Air Force was the smartest.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get taken care of the best, A lot of people assume I was like in the Marines or something.
I always thought you was a Marine one. I knew you were a vet. I thought Marine just because I don't know why.
Well, my dream was to go like special operations. Like I want to do something badass, like pararescue or combat control, and actually gotten into shape for it, man. I was crushing it, but I didn't get the opportunity to cross train until like so many years in that I was already 1 foot out the door when that time came.
Definitely want to talk about the military stuff, but on the the night, you're looking in the mirror and you're just like, boom, I'm changing my life because I'm disgusted with myself. I hate what I'm seeing, who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Was it more about the physical, like who you was or what you looked like, or all of it?
I think one thing was what I looked like. There was a physical aspect, but it's also just how I felt internally, man. Yeah. I felt so unhealthy. So I think physically, yes, I just felt unhealthy. I looked unhealthy. There was all that. But even bigger, I just felt empty. And I needed purpose and I needed more. And I couldn't find it there.
Yeah.
And I knew I wasn't going to find it there because I was just going to continue down the same path. I need something to like a strong fucking something that's going to force me in a situation that's totally separate, that there's not going to be access to drugs and all that stuff, right? And so I needed a harsh change.
Yeah. And you'd been like numbing yourself for so long, and that goes to the empty. Something I was wanting to ask is, you mentioned in my episode, like, so, people, no one wants to do that. Like, people want out of, the drug life, and it gets ugly. Like, maybe it's fun the first time you do it or at the beginning. But there's that turning point where it just becomes addiction and this whole horrible thing. And you become someone you don't love, you're not proud of. How long, like, between that day and when you shipped out, like, how did you, some people want out and don't know how to get out. Like, what did you do? 1 day sober clean, a week sober clean? Like, what was your trick? other than shipping off across,
I honestly, I credit a lot to my dad. I told him I wanted to join, and he was like, he could probably recognize, things have changed.
Yeah.
But yeah, my dad was like taking me to the track at the high school, put me in a sweatsuit and had me running laps and stuff. Like we were like, okay, let's get your weight down, because I had to meet a certain weight requirement anyways. Get your weight down. We're going to get you good cardio. We're going to get you in shape. And like, that was just the journey there, and I still partied here and there. There was a couple times I probably did dabble with pills or smoking weed, that I could get away with it before like any kind of test. I was having my last like little hurrahs.
But had a good excuse. Yeah. The last hurrah. Yeah.
But I didn't like go crazy and spiral. Like I just was able to kind of dabble in it. But even then, like it's not necessarily positive. But I did a couple times. But yeah, I was just honestly really focused on just getting in good shape and getting out on my date. So
yeah.
And we talked about this, and I had a friend ask me, and a little off course, but I told you about my friend. The old friend that I talked to on the phone that I sent him Venmo money, right? That was
That dude is sober and clean now.
Yeah, and he was just like, a friend of mine was like, Chris was on a few episodes back, actually before your first one, the ultra marathoner.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he
that's a good episode. That dude's nuts, man.
Solid. He's such a good dude.
Way, like 100-mile marathon.
Yeah, I appreciate the hell out of that.
Yeah, Andy sounds super smart too, like sciencey brain.
Yeah.
But that's a whole nother animal, man. Yeah. Running 100-mile marathons.
Exactly, dude.
The psychological piece of that.
He's one of the most genuine individuals I've ever met, like cool. 100%. So I was grateful, and we still stay in touch. And actually, the guest that's coming on next week is a friend of his. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
But Chris had asked me, he's like, just wondering, like, is there anything you might have said to that guy, like when you sent the money? As like a final, like, hey. And I was like, honestly, I kept it simple. He's probably used to so many people lecturing him.
I was going to say, you probably treated him like a human being, man.
I was like, hey, man, money sent. Just know I believe in you.
Yeah.
And that was that. And I just, honestly, in my heart, this is like all, because, I probably did type something up, and I was like, no, screw that. Like, all he needs to hear is that he's believed in. He doesn't need a freaking lecture from me. He's going to make his choice no matter what. I'm not going to say some magic words. I was just like, I believe in you, dude.
Yeah.
You got this.
You're also putting hey, you're being supportive, but you're putting the ball in his court.
Mm-hmm.
Like the power's up to him because, and there is a reverse psychology to that. One, people struggle. People I'm not a big fan of the judgment, and I mentioned in my episode, like being a social outcast and stuff, and the judgment. Some people just, you're doing that, you're a loser.
Yeah.
Instead of how bad it is and how challenging, and you don't want to be a loser. But, talking to him like a person, treating him like a person. And, I know teachers take home tests like, don't cheat, you better not cheat.
Mm-hmm.
And if you just give somebody a take-home test, then it's like, oh, God, they trust me to not cheat. So I'm not going to cheat.
Yeah.
Like, you get it in your head for yourself. And so he's like, how many people told that dude no? On the money. He's like, man, Joe trusts me. He believes in me. He gave me this money.
Yeah. I don't necessarily what went through his head, but obviously there was something. And, he's changed his life, and that's all. I'm just grateful for that.
I like your philosophy on that because, nobody wants to give people money to go buy drugs and alcohol. But when you said, I hope he does something good with it, but.
Well, yeah, because people ask the question, they're like, well, what if they go buy more dope? That's not my intention. I know my intention was for him to change his life. That's all I can control is what my intentions are.
Mm-hmm.
If what his decision is, up to him. Like, that's just how it's going to be, how it plays out. But like, after I send the money, it's all up to him. Me, I know in my heart, I wanted to help somebody.
Yeah, you wanted to help.
That's all I care about.
You did the right thing.
Yeah.
And with that other outlook, like, if you are in the mindset to play somebody, and you know what you're doing with that money, and you go get drugs with that money, if you don't give them that money, they're still going to go get those drugs. And what are they going to have to steal?
Mm-hmm.
Or shady, crimes in the ghetto,
ain't no
like
telling.
his muscle or whatever, to get it. And you can always, You can always find it or find ways to get it. And a lot of it illegal and some are violent and dangerous. So it's cool. You put the ball in his court, and that's awesome.
And played out well.
Yeah, but it sounds like, going back to the getting clean part, did something that I know was huge for me. It sounds like exercise. Did you kind of use that as a drug or like a substitute for your mind and body to stay, sober as possible?
I think so, without understanding that. I think like now I look at, I said earlier, you're not who you were, right? But I always kind of embrace the fact that like I have an addicted person. Like I'm an addict in a way, but I'm addicted to great and positive stuff. Mm-hmm. Like, I can sit here and say like I'm an addict, but I'm addicted to progress. I'm addicted to being the best version of myself. It all applies to Relentless Pursuit. And
I'm addicted to being a productive member of society.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Hey, that's a good addiction, Joe.
Yeah. So, and like with fitness, like, I'm addicted to that because it is like a drug, I love that's why I do the burpees and all the hard stuff, because not the hard stuff, but the hard stuff in the gym. Because like it is in essence a drug, and I don't think I really understood that then. I did a lot of running, and I was going out to the trails at like Pilot Mountain, with my parents, and running the trails with our dog, and that was a lot of fun. So that occupied my mind a lot and kept me moving forward. But I don't think I understood it that way at the time.
Yeah, but you were doing that.
I just knew I had a goal.
It's good to educate people on that, because some people don't know, and from my class, because you said you learned things like, obviously there's severe cases where people need medicine, and it's great, but like moderate, mild depression or anxiety, exercise is as good as or better than medicine. Like scientific studies that's proven that. And when we run, can't imagine a 100-mile marathon, but when we exercise, our brain, we literally get high. Our brain releases these opiate-like endorphins. And I was fortunate enough, I had a psychology teacher tell me like, hey, don't smoke a joint, just go run a mile. Yeah. And you'll get a natural high. And so I really leaned on that. It is a good, healthy substitute.
Oh, without a doubt.
But and then there's the addictive nature stuff. You know, like I didn't steal one street sign, I stole 77.
I need more.
And so like I wore my shoulders out when I was first getting clean, because I was replacing it with exercise, and anytime upset, like more exercise. Yeah. But still better than more drugs.
Yeah, true. Yeah. And then the worst case, you get injured and you're like, oh shit, maybe I need to like tone it down a little bit.
Yeah. So you didn't have like, cause with benzos, stopping them cold turkey can be dangerous. Yeah. So you didn't have like seizures or have to do like the medical assisted, tapering down. You just got out of there.
No, to be honest, like I don't. There's a couple times where I pushed myself like on drugs to the point where I thought I was going to die. Yeah. They were pretty scary to where like I'm just laying there on the floor and I hear a friend that's right here sound like they're 100 feet away. Really? Yelling Joe, and I'm just sweating.
Just so out.
And like I just can't even move. And then finally I come back. Like there was a couple situations like that were pretty scary. And I was like, I remember being like, God, I won't do it again. And then like doing drugs again. Yeah. And that was pretty interesting. But after the fact, I don't think I ran into any problems to where like I had some crazy withdrawal symptoms. I think I just had a purpose and a goal, and my mind totally shifted towards, all right, got to get in the military. This is the way for me now. Yeah. And
did you get honest with your parents? Sounds like you said your dad was real helpful. He was kind of like a fitness coach. Was he also like moral support for you getting straight?
I think I don't know if I was very honest about the drug aspect at the time, because I was a lot younger. Mm-hmm. But now they know everything about me. You know, like I think sometime after being in the military, I pretty much opened up about all of it. You know, and I talked to them about everything. Anything, and like obviously I talk about everything on the podcast, and because it's always been like, well, if I won't share with my parents, and what's the point in sharing with anybody else? I'll share everything with them. So I keep it real with them, and I told them about my experiences, and they're just proud of me.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And your dad helping you get in shape. And how long till you shipped out to boot camp? Like after you got out of the life, was it like 6 weeks or a year?
It was a handful of months. I don't know the exact timeline, but all I know is that semester finished, and then it was supposed to be like a year, but then like I got a call from my recruiter, and he's like, "Hey man, you ready to go to MEPS and like ship out?" And I was like, "Shit,
oh man,
I gotta get." I was like, "I gotta get clean." So like he had me pumping water like before I went and did my piss test because I had weed in my system, and and then I shipped out November 1st, 2009, and landed in Texas.
Is that where boot camp was?
Yeah, that's where they do all the Air Force basic training, San Antonio.
Down in Texas.
Down in Texas.
Was that was it scary going off? Like once you sign the papers, you're in, you're on the bus, whatever. Was it?
I think looking back, it's kind of like it's funny because I could go back there and have a good time. Yeah. Like if you threw me in boot camp now, I'd be like, but
burpees.
Oh yeah, because like
run circles around people.
No, yeah, and I like think about my rec and all the things. I'm like, dude, I've been through way harder shit. But at the time, it was definitely a reality check because I came from having just a normal life, and all of a sudden, I pull up on this bus at this place, and these dudes are yelling at me, and like they're in my face, and it's dark, and they're like, "Oh, you do this," and it's chaos, and I'm like, "Oh shit, this is crazy," Yeah. And at the time, it was like, it's definitely a big shock, but also I was like, "Hey, I'm here, got to do it," and so you go through that time, and you make friends, you learn how to work together, you suffer through different things. And you just make the best of it, and you know that it's going to be over soon. So,
and you mentioned on my episode that's kind of how you separated yourself from that group of characters and that lifestyle. Kind of like just put yourself in a whole nother place. Like you put up a wall between that old life, that hole you got down into, and then the new one.
Yeah, I just kind of went and never looked back. I think I went back and visited after basic and training for my career field. I went and visited my family for some weeks, and I saw some of those people. Like we had like a party or something, and but it was I was changed then. Like I definitely drank a bunch still, but I just kind of separated myself from all that. And then my parents moved not long after. And my family moved, and so they moved to Tennessee. And so, just like I said, the last time I went to Powell Mountain, North Carolina was just a couple months ago. But prior to that, it's been like 15 years since I've been over there, something like that. Yeah.
Old Mayberry.
Yeah.
Something I've wondered, and not we'll say the numb amnesia Xanax here, because you definitely learn from those experiences, but that's not who you are or were, like it's this trap you got down into. But I've always been curious, do you think, because I know addicted to positive things, Joe, like just super relentless guy in academic, professional, family pursuits, but do you think, did the military change you, like make you this way, you think? Or were you always the same mindset, the discipline or outlook?
I think these things are within all of us.
Yeah.
I think it just takes circumstances to bring that out of you. Does that make sense? So I think just, obviously we'll get to my rec probably next episode, but my rec, right? All those things, that drive and just that passion was always within me. I think that's just was the circumstance that opened that door. And the same thing goes with the military. Yeah, I mean, it forced discipline and whatnot. But, and just gave me structure. And then, I got deployed after some time. And then I got back. And like while I was deployed, I was really like focused on the science of lifting. Like before that, I was just, I'd freaking
exercising.
I was training really hard, and I was in insane shape. Like I could run like crazy, all the stuff. But like, after a PT test, I'd smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
And then I'd go to the gym and then be in the dorms on base with the guys, and like we'd work out and then immediately just start drinking beer.
Oh yeah. If I work out, I can party tonight. Just like progress, get step backwards, progress, step backwards.
And I'm stationed in Panama City, Florida, so we got spring break and the beach and all the stuff. And it's just, throw a 20-year-old in that, 19, 20-year-old, and like, hey, you're an adult now and they're getting money and have some more freedom. Yeah, you're gonna party hard. I definitely partied hard.
So some good times in the military.
Oh
like
yeah,
on leave and stuff.
yeah. I got some of my best friends. I mean, it was such a positive thing for me. I'm glad I got out because I had to create my own path. I mean, right now is a sure thing of that. And I didn't do well with like just having to fall in line for the rest of my life. But
Yeah. I was gonna say, because I know you said like you're hey, tell me to do something, I'm gonna I'm not gonna
had no
do
choice
it.
there. Yeah.
How'd that line up, man? Was it just, hey, I'm here, I got to?
Yeah,
so
pretty
I'm gonna
much.
do it?
I was like, it's part of it. I understood that before even getting in. I was like, I'm gonna have to take orders and do what I gotta do. But I also didn't like let people. I mean, especially basic is basic, but you go through basic training, like you're gonna just have to deal with being talked to like shit. But furthermore, like in my career and stuff like that, I followed orders, but I also didn't take shit.
Yeah.
I was just like, no, like I'm not like some scum. I'm not gonna be treated like that. So I definitely like spoke what I thought on based on those things. But just I forced myself in a situation that forced me to grow and like understand things a little bit differently. And sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. And that's how it was, at least in the military. But
yeah. I'm curious, do you think the like talking shit, and I'm just I'm thinking of the movies, Bubba and Forrest getting yelled at,
yeah.
because I never was military, so all the things, quads can't pass boot camp, and wrecked when I was 16. So I did try one time. It was funny. I was like, hey, maybe I can go to a psychologist in the military, and they're like, well, you got to pass boot camp. I was like, okay, never mind. But do you think also besides just all the running and hard work, like getting yelled at, does that kind of help you, like talking shit to you, yelling at you? Does that help you like in life because in life we're hearing negative things, and we can let it bother us or we can brush it off and do what we're doing.
Yeah. One thing, is like the sense of humor you have from the military. Like it's different. I was talking about that veteran meetup the other night, and I was like, man, one of the biggest checks I had was like going to school right after the military and like saying a joke, and people were just like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, dude, it's a military thing. And you just like, you make humor of the darkest stuff because you're with the same people every day and you're working long hours and you talk about dark shit.
And you could go die at any time. Like, you don't know when you're going to, hey, we're going off to war. Out there.
Yeah, exactly. So you just like, it re-gears your mind. But it's also, I think the biggest thing for me and one of my biggest takeaways from the military that I appreciate is like setting standards.
Yeah.
Like I'm very like structured and I have standards set for everything, maybe a little too much in certain aspects. I have really high standards for myself and just things that go on here and just little attention to detail and stuff like that. Yeah. I think that was a big aspect and a gain from that experience, and obviously getting to go overseas and, experience something new in a different place and, coming back. And like I said, I got really dialed in the fitness. I ended up pursuing, like I did like a bodybuilding show not long after that. And, so that's where the fitness journey really began and whatnot. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of crazy shifts and ins and outs there. I mean, in that time frame, when I got back from deployment in like 2013, I got my first Harley, that same Harley that got wrecked.
Caused.
Yeah, it's your fault. And I met a girl. I was engaged at the time.
Yeah.
So that was my first time I was engaged. And I called a wedding that I proposed in like 9 months and then called a wedding off like a month after I proposed.
Oh, wow. That's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, it was hard, but it was also clear that like we just weren't right for each other. And I was like, well, I'm going to dodge this bullet.
Oh, man. But you called it off. Like, how close to the wedding was it?
I mean, we still had like, it was like going to be the next year, right? Yeah. But it was like a month after I proposed. Like, I saw some red flags, and I was like, hell no.
Yeah. It's very Joe Adams, because I don't know if many people have the courage to do that.
It sucked, man. I tell you what, like, it was really hard to go through it, because you don't want to do that, and you see how it affects somebody else, and like obviously you care.
Yeah.
So you don't want to hurt them, but you also got to think like, dude, this is like our life, and there's so much. You get married with somebody and you have kids with them, like, and it doesn't work out. Well, then there's a lot more shit to deal with on top of that.
Yeah.
So I might as well work the Band-Aid off early on. and avoid the chaos that could ensue down the road.
Deal with the pain now. I think when I was young, I had a girlfriend. I remember breaking up with her, and she cried. I was like, "Oh, never mind. No, we're good."
That's funny as hell, because I feel like I've done that at some point in my past. I'm like, no, we're good. We can work this out.
Like months in, 2 or 3 months in, yeah, we should break up. It ain't working.
Dude, that's so funny.
Like, never mind, we're all good.
Yeah.
And then multiple years later,
dude,
and then pain down the road. Like, oh God, the breakup's way worse.
Yeah, dude. Well, I talk about that, man. I had a shirt I put out that says "Comfort is a slow death," and getting comfortable, you slowly decay.
Yeah.
And but suffering forces growth.
Yeah.
And so if you're willing to suffer, it's just like I talk about, like getting in a bare knuckle boxing match, right? It's applied to life or boxing in general. You know, it's like you can either avoid things and get comfortable and slowly decay over time, or you can just take that hit once.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to suck. It's going to hit you hard and it might knock you out, but you're going to bounce back from that a lot quicker and move forward. It's the same thing. If you're willing, this is how I looked at that situation. I was like, dude, if I suffer now, at the end of the day, it's done with.
Yeah.
Like, take the hit. Ouch. Okay, we move forward. We just bandage it up and we move forward.
Sometimes we're scared of that pain, that initial intense pain.
Yeah.
And take the slow death, option. And I think I said in my episode, like, it's good to struggle, and struggle's good. You learn from it. You grow from it. I think that kind of goes in line with what you're saying about comfort.
Yeah. Well, and
things are too easy. We don't grow from that.
No. And it's like vision, man. And honestly, thinking about those past relationships and the weddings being called off, like, I think about the visions of the future, right? Not like reading the future, but in a way, yes, because I looked at those relationships and I was in a position and I could see my future and I'm like, dude, this is going to be bad.
Yeah.
There was all these scenarios and it wasn't me overthinking things. I was like, I just knew it wasn't going to end up well.
Not a good fit.
And then here I am struggling hard, like just it's hard as hell starting to go on with this business, right? But like the vision is different. Like I just see something so beautiful and so great and something that has a massive impact. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to keep moving forward with this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so it's like applied. Vision is always applied to my life in a way. It's like got me out of situations, but it's also kept me going in the hardest of times because I know how great it's going to pay off.
So maybe one of your talents then would be long-term thinking in line with the vision, like seeing things through and looking big picture. Because it's the way you're talking about the relationships. And then I'm sure I'm not a business guy, man, but I can't imagine this is easy. Starting this up, it's gotta be a pain.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. You talking about the business as a whole?
Yeah, getting things going, whatever loans and the property and things in place. But it sounds like the vision of this in 10 years from now, where all this is going to be, is what helped you jump over those hurdles and push through.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it's all scary, but you're just like, dude, I gotta go. I gotta go all in.
But yeah, man, thanks for having me, and I've learned a lot of stuff I didn't know. Look forward to learning more. I got to head to the office and work.
Dude, I'm going to be working right as soon as you leave.
Yeah. Hey, good luck with finals.
Appreciate
I know we got finals coming up, man.
Appreciate it, man.
I appreciate it. We're going to dig into the rest.
Hell yeah, man. Hey, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. And I'm stoked for next time. Next episode will be here in a couple weeks, part 2. And thanks again.
Yeah, heck yeah. Saga continues.
Take care.